Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. We have the one and only Miss Sandy Miarecki joining us for our monthly discussion on all things with concerning the Republic, geopolitical, financial, and wherever else the conversation goes. We always look forward and are honored to have her on accordingly. If you are new to the podcast, as always, please do like, subscribe, and share. It helps the channel grow and others to gain in the knowledge you're currently being afforded. As you know, Miss Miarecki is a retired Lieutenant Air Force Colonel, test pilot, best of the best, is the acting Secretary of State for the Republic and has been active in this movement for many, many years and is as honest and concise as anybody I've ever known. And we are honored and delighted to have her on once again. Ms. Sandy Miarecki, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, John. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Likewise. So as we always customarily do, for those who are not familiar, give us, if you would, your monthly overview of the Republic, where things stand, what's working, what's being improved, etc.
Yes, sir. So for your new listeners, real quick, couple minutes. We all know that our founding fathers gave us a republic, and we were infiltrated. And long story short, 1871, we lost that republic with the Organic Act of 1871. And a whole bunch of stuff happened in the meantime, Federal Reserve, IRS, et cetera, all the garbage. And so we've White Hats formed a group. They called themselves the Army of Virginia back in the JFK days. They approached us in 2008 and they said, can you restore the Republic as part of this plan to save the country? 2 years later, we did. And we just had our 15th anniversary, November 14th of last month. So basically what we stand for is we are the actual republic that our founding fathers gave us. We reseated the abandoned republic. We call it re-inhabited. So if you see that word anywhere, that's probably us. And we are holding these positions until we can hold lawful elections. Trump was also recruited by the same White Hats. And so we are both on the same team. So Trump is doing his part from the inside, and we are sitting on the sidelines on the outside, waiting to be called up. We are only interim. We only hold the positions till lawful elections can occur. And then we hand over the reins to the lawfully elected people, since we haven't had a lawful election since 1860. That's the basics.
Sounds good to me. So with that in mind, ma'am, please continue.
Yep.
As always, the floor is yours with where we are at present date.
Yes, sir. So, we continue to do our regular mission, just like I described. We have people who come into the Republic, or friends or family or whatever, folks that are honorable and respectable, moral, ethical, etc., to hold these positions, because it's a very big deal. I mean, it's an honor, but also a lot of work in a way. So we're always looking for new volunteers. When we were having our big influx of new people, because our message finally started to get out after the massive and really total shadow banning that we were going through before May of last year. May of 2024 was when we finally started to get our message out. I think the bad guys stumbled somehow. And once our message got out, then it started to spread like wildfire, because people are like, I don't know what to do to save my republic. And we go, we already did. We did all the hard work. All you have to do is join. You're like, what? Yeah, pretty much. So that's what we're looking for. When we had this big influx of people last summer, basically, that was the prime scenario for the next infiltration by the three-letter agencies of the corporate United States, Inc. So they, FBI, CIA, who knows, probably, well, we know we have some proof now of FBI interference, and we just keep gathering that info. We got a little bit more in this last round. So, a few here and there, we have to remove a governor or a senator or something. And most of the time, it's just people that just fall kind of, we don't have any contact with them anymore. It's like, well, you kind of represent the people. If you're not in contact with them, you're not representing them. So that makes it a little bit easy when you write to them and you say, hey, we haven't seen you for 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. So that's a little bit of what we've been going through, is just kind of cleaning up the rosters. We do have a couple of states, probably, I don't know, maybe 12 or so, that don't have any representation right now. And so we're still trying to fill those seats. And then again, there's God. And he just brings us people all of a sudden, and you go, how did you find out about us? It's like, you're perfect for this job. And of course, my prayer continues to be a two-parter every day. God, we know we have evil people amongst us. Please make them do stupid stuff so we can recognize them and remove them. Amen. Part two, God, we need you to be our vetting committee. We need you to bring only the honorable, ethical, moral, and good people into this republic and block the bad people because we don't want to keep going through this anymore. Amen.
Hallelujah to that. Absolutely. Thank you, Sandy. So now let's take it a step further before we go into our customary articles. I know you have one you want to talk about and expound on that you found that was noteworthy, so that's great. But before we get to that, it's an important delineation. I'm not speaking to our audience that's existing that knows. I'm talking to the new people who we're onboarding on a regular basis, thankfully. There's a lot of imposter groups that make it muddy the waters. Just like there's people who claim they're me and in somewhere in Africa and you're saying that we're on X. I'm not on X or Facebook or Instagram. I haven't been on those platforms for years, but there's a lot of people copying us and AI and all that nonsense. So it muddies the waters, the enemy, stupid stuff, confusion. To your point, how long has this True Republic been around, and how do you help separate and differentiate yourself from said imposters?
Sure. So we've actually got two sets. I'll just clarify. There are the imposters or the folks that say they are us. In fact, that's what we call the splinter group. These are the infiltrators that broke off from this republic back in the January, February timeframe. They are following Tim Turner, who was the original president, appointed by the Continental Congress, essentially. He's been tricked and infiltrated, we're pretty sure, by the FBI. And he's actually working for them. He probably doesn't even know it. But we know that one of his prime advisors is an FBI handler. So that's part of this evidence that we continue to gather. I'm sorry, rewind again the question. I always get off.
How long has your True Republic been in existence? Yep.
So the White Hats approached the leaders of the previous group, that wasn't the Republic, because they were doing really great work with Constitution Radio, how to lawfully avoid taxes, standing up your counties, jural assemblies, that kind of thing. And that started maybe 2005, 2001. I always forget the date of, because it was always an evolving thing. And it was called the Restore America Plan. And then the White Hats approached that leadership November of 2008. So 17 years is how long we've known about the White Hats, Army of Virginia, and that they approached us to do what we did. And then it only took us 2 years before we signed the Declaration of Sovereign Intent. And as I mentioned, that's our 15th year anniversary was just this past November 14th, when a quorum of states gathered in Ephraim, Utah, and signed this document that was then filed in the international systems, declaring that America then has a republic again. And we're just sitting here waiting for the American people to wake up and sign up and want their republic back. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thankfully, I think people more and more people are frustrated because they want it yesterday, but they have to be part of the solution and help galvanize other people, which many are doing. I'm just saying it's an ongoing process. It's an evolving process, and patience with stick-to-itiveness is required, as you know better than any of us with what you've done in service. So let's go.
Our third infiltration, by the way,
and our third private Western Central Bank being removed as well. So there you go, parallels. No, you're absolutely right. So I'm going to take us, Sandy, to the article that you had brought up last week that you thought was noteworthy. I'm going to set it up, have you articulate a little bit, then we'll play it. So let me just get this queued up in the frame of things. Let me know when you can see this, please, and thank you.
Okay, I think I see it now.
This is a gentleman here, middle-aged gentleman. So before I play it, please take us through what we're about to watch.
Okay, so I was sent this, it was about a week ago now, I think, right? And so this gentleman has found something called, and he'll explain it in the video. It's pretty short, and it's just like the first couple of minutes is all we'll probably listen to. The parallel table of authorizations and rules, I believe. I'm trying to remember if that was the A and the R. I'm trying to remember what it means. PTAR. And it's essentially, by what authority and jurisdiction do we have these laws, codes, statutes, etc.? And so when Congress passes a new law, let's say, they have to back that with something other laws, codes, and statutes. And so This guy has actually
Through a
dug
lot,
into
and it feels
marketing
like there's this wall between her and me.
These ads are just so annoying, John. I know.
Yeah, don't remind me. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh,
Continue.
that's all right. Um, so what this guy did is he took that table and then he started doing some research and he figured out that um, there are certain departments and agencies within this federal government that don't have any laws, codes, or statutes behind them.
Hmm. Well, let's cue that up on the backs of that, and we'll play this briefly, and then we'll go forward. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Not any more ad interference, because God forbid they wouldn't get their pound of flesh. Here we go.
You listen to this video carefully. There's information powerful enough to start a revolution. I encourage you to watch it. There's a government document almost no American has ever heard of, a document buried deep in the federal archives, rarely discussed, rarely taught. It is called the Parallel Table of Authorities and Rules, or simply the PTAR. And the PTAR does something extraordinary. It maps every federal regulation in the Code of Federal Regulations to the exact statute Congress supposedly used to authorize it. It is the federal government's own quote-unquote chain of command chart, a direct link between statute, delegated authority, regulatory jurisdiction, and enforcement. And here's why this matters. If a regulation has no statutory authority in the PTAR, it has no jurisdiction. If a statute does not map to the relevant CFR part, the agency has no authority to enforce that rule. The PTAR is the mirror the federal government never intended anyone to hold up. And when you hold it up to the IRS, the reflection is devastating. Today I'm going to show you two examples, two sections of the Internal Revenue Code that collapse under PTAR scrutiny. These aren't theories, these aren't loopholes. These are the government's own records exposing the truth. Let's begin. The first example, 26 U.S.C. 7203, which is willful failure to file. This is the statute the IRS uses to prosecute Americans for failing to file a tax return. It is the quote-unquote go-to weapon, the statute they lean upon more than any other. But here's the problem. According to the PTAR, the Parallel Table of Authorities and Rules, there is no regulatory delegation for 7203. Not a single regulation in 26 CFR that applies to this statute to private individuals living in the 50 states. None. No listing, no mapping, no authority, no instructions, no jurisdictional foundation. The PTAR exposes no regulation which instructs who is required to file. No regulation identifies the jurisdiction of the statute. No regulation explains under what circumstances filing is required. This is lethal to the IRS because for any criminal statute to apply, it must first apply civilly. The entire IRS enforcement structure must follow this chain: statute, delegation, regulation, enforcement. But 7203 breaks the chain. There is no delegated authority, no implementing regulation, no PTAR entry for individuals, and no proof that Congress empowered Treasury to regulate private citizens under 7203. So when the IRS alleges failure to file, they are relying upon pure presumption, not on statutory or regulatory authority. This is not a loophole. This is a government mistake, a structural failure buried in the PTAR for decades. And now, example 2, it's even more damaging. 26 U.S.C. 7212. This is obstruction of the administration of internal revenue laws. This is the statute the IRS uses to intimidate Americans who challenge its authority. They claim it applies to anyone who questions them, resists them, demands proof of jurisdiction, or stands up for their rights. But the PTAR tells a very different story. Section 7212 is not and I repeat, not tied to 26 CFR for the income tax. It is tied exclusively to 27 CFR, the regulations of alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. Let me say that again. The IRS uses 7212 to prosecute Americans, but the PTAR shows that its regulatory authority exists only in excise jurisdictions and not income tax jurisdictions. The PTAR maps 7212 to the following: 27 CFR Part 40, Part 41, Part 44, Part 45, and Part 46. And these parts regulate alcohol excise taxes, tobacco excise taxes, bonded warehouses, import-export of regulated goods, and firearms manufacturing taxes, not to private citizens, not wage earners, not those living in the several states, not individuals filing a 1040. The statute is legislatively tied to commodity taxation, not to the general income tax system. This is catastrophic for the IRS's narrative because 7212 has no regulatory foundation in 26 CFR, no mapping to income tax regulations, and no indication in the PTAR that Congress intended its use against the general public. The IRS uses 7212 as a catch-all enforcement weapon, but the PTAR reveals what it truly is: an excise tax enforcement statute misapplied to the American people. This is no small oversight. This is structural overreach. It's deliberate, deceitful, and it's done by design. Why these examples destroy the IRS's presumption? Both 7203 and 7212 expose the same fatal flaw. The IRS is prosecuting statutes even when the regulatory authority does not exist. So let's summarize. For 7203, there's no regulatory mapping, no implementing regulation, and no CFR delegation, as well as no jurisdictional foundation. Enforcement is based entirely on presumption. And for 7212, the regulatory mapping exists, but only for excise taxes in 27 CFR, not for the income tax system, not for private citizens, and not for the several states. This equals misapplication of statute, misuse of jurisdiction, and regulatory fraud. Now, what does this mean? The PTAR proves something the Liberty Dialogues have been saying all along. Federal jurisdiction is not universal. It is specific, delegated, narrow, and often absent. When a statute has no regulation, no delegation, no mapping, or mapping only to excise tax jurisdictions within 27 CFR, then the IRS is enforcing authority it was never granted. The PTAR exposes illegal assumptions, misrepresented statutes, and enforcement actions that collapse under scrutiny. And that is why the PTAR is one of the most powerful tools available for the American people, for dismantling federal presumption and restoring the boundaries of constitutional governance. Because when the government's own records contradict its own enforcement practices, the truth becomes undeniable. The Liberty Dialogues are based upon truth and jurisdiction. Your statement of understanding is essential towards proving the same. And in my next video, I will address my conviction based upon 7203 and 7212, and I will also discuss the parallel table of authorities and rules admissibility into federal courts. Until then, may truth reign supreme.
Hallelujah. So let's stay on that, Sandy. How would people find out about more of this information? Where would they go to?
I would follow this guy, honestly.
Yeah. How do they follow him?
Well, he's got a Facebook page and I believe a Rumble channel. I looked it up very briefly, but I don't remember the name of it. So that was in the description of the Facebook page.
I'll have you send me that and I'll put it up.
Yeah.
Please.
So, so he did a great job of essentially introducing it, going into the details, and then summarizing it. I mean, it's like a military briefing. This guy must have military time.
Yeah, right.
And so in simple terms, we all know in the patriot community that the IRS has zero jurisdiction over living men and women. The problem comes in with the birth certificates. And we're talking about not the one that has all the, the lines and the tables and the whatever, and it says, mother, father, age, employment, birthplace, all that, doctor's name, mother's name, blah, blah, blah. That is the public version of our birth certificate that we all get in the mail a couple days after the parents and the baby come home from the hospital. The fraud comes in when they create a second one behind the first one that they never tell you about. It's completely done in fraud. The baby's identity, it's identity theft of the baby. Okay. And that's your stuff. That's your belongings, because what they do is they create the second birth certificate. You've talked about this. I'm mostly just telling your new people that creates a fraudulent dummy corporation that has exactly your name, but in all capital letters. And that's the thing you see on every document you have. Bank accounts, checking, savings, your mortgages, your loans, your car loans, your driver's license, your credit cards, any kind of license or fee or, a hunting license, anything that you've ever done, it's all caps, because they're tricking you, the living man or woman, into thinking that the all caps name is you and you're responsible for it, when they're actually two separate things. And so when they create this fake corporation that's got my name on it and your name on it, that's what's actually getting taxed. So he's correct that it says that there's no jurisdiction, and the PTAR is has no statutes or codes behind it. Nothing in law to say, this is how we created this thing called the IRS, and here's all the laws that pertain. What they were using fraudulently is an excise tax, which does not apply to people or even corporations for that matter. It mostly applies to products.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the fraud that this guy has exposed. Now, we all knew about it and we all had like bits and pieces of the puzzle, but here's like the hub of the wheel, right? We were seeing a spoke here and a spoke there, and this is the hub. And this is the thing that can take down anybody who's going through IRS court or whatever right now. You just bring up the PTAR. Now, he did intimate at the very end that he's going to do another video, and he may have already done it by now, about how to bring this into federal court. So that, I think, is just as critically important as the one he just did. And, so he says, here's what's happened. Here's what I found. And now here's how you apply it to defend yourself. So I'm looking forward to seeing that second one or third one, whichever one he said it was. So
yeah, so we'll look out for that maybe next month. Now, you and I, as nationalists who did the paperwork the right way and put it in a constitutional county, know that there's not one single law in the books of the IRS that says individuals have to pay taxes. And that's why a lot of those agents left decades ago. You can go online, folks, on YouTube. We're not going to tell you how to do it. You can do it yourself. You're capable. You can figure it out. If you're here, you're doing, hopefully, right? You're doing diligent research, and you will go down the rabbit hole on your own. We're not here to do it for you. This is a DIY channel. Always has been. Always will be.
We will point you in the right direction.
Yeah, we'll give you.
Save your time. Don't look over here, but focus your attention here and do your research. That's what.
Yeah, we'll give them the right guideposts, but you still have to do the work, just like we did. It's a process, and and to do the paperwork correctly, as we know, it takes several months, but the benefits are multi-tiered. Now, it's funny, Sandy, you sent me this because as I was doing other articles to queue up, I found one that perfectly complements what you just shared, all by God's grace, because like you said, it's a God thing. So let's go to this one.
Okay.
This comes from a fellow friend who's been on our channel a few times. Pull up this gentleman, courtesy of John G., who found this. And this talks about what's coming with the, quote, IRS January 20th. Isn't that usually a day of inauguration?
Something like that. We're in the off season, but yeah.
In the corporate world, in the corporation, but it all coincides nonetheless. So let's take a listen to this.
Told y'all what was going to happen. January 20th, Trump's going to do away with the IRS. And you say, well, what is he going to do? External Revenue Service. The External Revenue Service is where all of America's goods that are exported out of the United States will now be taxed, like every other country does to us. See, if y'all didn't know what other countries, how they work, is all of their law enforcement, military, roads, schools, whatever, the government is paid based off of tariffs. Every time we buy something from China, from whoever, they tax the hell out of us, and that goes towards their country. However, right now, when people buy from the United States, it's tax-free. That's why we get taxed. And just like Trump said, there's no reason to tax an income, then go out and buy something and tax it again. Therefore, there will still be taxes when you go out and buy goods. However, there will not be an income tax. Income tax is obsolete now, starting January 20th, and the House agrees. The Senate is going to sign it. They agree. The whole world agrees. It's how every other country does this shit. So the ERS will now replace the IRS. Our pay is going to go up 30 to 40%, which is absolutely unbelievable. And when Trump was talking about doing this, people were saying, oh, he's a liar. They've already agreed to pass the bill. The ERS, External Revenue Service. All of everything that our IRS pays for now from us will now come from other countries. The External Revenue Service. No more IRS.
So bingo on that, Sandy. And it's actually going to go up higher than 30, 40% to this point because, as you know, I'm just telling to the audience, it's not just income tax, it's property tax. You already see what DeSantis is doing in Florida and Texas. You've got excise tax for cars, going away. The capital gains going away. And no matter what people are telling you folks erroneously that, oh, this is not constitutional, that's BS. It absolutely is. They don't know what they're talking about. This is absolutely constitutionally fact that tariffs are part of the Constitution. They're not part of the corporation. I don't know where people are getting their information, but that's not reality. And Sandy's proved it. I proved it out. So just ignore those people and stay tuned to the real truth of what you know. So now let's play this, Sandy.
You did misstate something. I do want to clarify.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's the goods that are being taxed from outside of the United States coming into the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an import tax.
Import tax, yeah.
So he said export tax.
Yeah, he got that wrong. I'm sorry, but I'm glad we cleared that up. Sorry, those are those wonderful commercials that they just can't live without, but we're going to cut through them regardless. Sorry, folks.
Absolutely. Okay. No worries. So that's and that is, it says tariffs and sales tax.
Right.
And so we are not going to pay 30, 40% income tax because we are not corporations in reality. Remember what I just said about the birth certificate and corporation in our name? That's all. Well, it doesn't actually go away because, interestingly, we talked about this, the S2KV trusts that were created on these birth certificates, millions and millions of dollars for each and every one of us. That's ours because it was stolen from us. And now we get it back. I just don't know when that's all going to happen. That part's when the republic is restored, that's when it's supposed to happen, et cetera, et cetera. But so we should expect probably like a 10% sales tax on everything one time.
I've heard it was 10 to 14%. Yeah, somewhere in that range.
We're hoping it's going to be on the low end because once you shrink the government down to where it's supposed to be, then you only need 10%.
That's correct, because you have less overhead. But here's the other thing too, Sandy, to your right point. Even the sales tax at the stores, once you go through our paperwork process, there's a way to hack around that too, but folks got to go down that rabbit hole. But even that's going to get eliminated. So the point is we're going to see this get better and better and better as a quick movement. Now, the reason I wanted to show this article real quick, Sandy, in spite of the commercials, is because the Fed is the quote unquote Fed, the dead Fed, as I call it, Fed optical Fed, is set to do, as predicted, 25 basis point cut tomorrow. Next week. Decision comes as the labor market shows weakness. Well, they've been lying about the numbers the whole time. So John Rich, who did all the statistical analysis, showed the actual rate of employment, according to Bill Holter, is actually closer to 20%. So, but you're going to see the cut 25 basis points tomorrow. Why am I showing this? Two reasons. One, because it's going to spike the market to its peak bubble for a crash. First quarter we talked about. This is how you know the demarcation point. Number two, it's going to really have a positive effect on the cryptos. because money, when it stops in one area, it flows to another. So we're predicting a lot of volatility that we've had in cryptos, but we will see a mini bull run, we believe, sometime this month into January, and then another one probably March, April, we'll say through the summer as a general baseline. So some significant happenings there. This is something up your street since you own land. This is inside paper. A farmer told President Trump in the White House the other day he'll be able to potentially pass his farm to his children because of President Trump. So let's take a listen to this.
It's such an honor to be here with you. I lost my grandfather in a hard hand in 2002 in a farming accident. And he instilled in me at an early age to love the land, to take pride in what we do.
Was that a machine accident?
It was a machine accident. And it gets in your blood to farm. It's in our blood. Despite what happened, I want my 2-year-old to farm. I want my 4-month-old daughter to have an opportunity. And what you're doing here in D.C. is working. You have a backbone to stand up to other countries for trade. You're getting things done. Tax provisions. I'll be able to potentially pass on a farm to my children because of you. Ethanol. You're working for ethanol. Trying to get E15 year-round. We're dealing with California. Prop 12. Let's continue to work on that. I think we can have a lot of domestic product used here in the country, and we can keep America first. And you're good at that. That is who you are. And if we keep that E15, you could have the biggest.
E15 is a big deal.
E15 is a great deal, year round.
Okay.
You could have the biggest stamp. I did that. Trump did that, and we would thank you. Farmers would love you more than anything if we could continue that.
So interesting, Sandy, that ties beautifully, not coincidentally, into the tax discussion we were just having. So you see everything beautifully coordinates and correlates well. Here's something up your street again. You're in Texas. Border Patrol has set up checkpoints in Texas to verify American citizenship. Sounds like, what do I know? Jasara.
Middle of nowhere. As y'all can see, let's see how it goes here.
U.S. citizen?
Texan citizen.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Likewise. So as y'all can see, there's a checkpoint in the middle of 285 south going to what is Sanderson, Texas. Well, stay tuned.
Do you know, I'm assuming you know where he's talking about, that area?
You said 285 in Henderson, Texas. Is that what I heard him say?
I think so. I think that's what he said. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I don't know where that is, so I figured you would.
Well, what's interesting is Henderson is not too far from where I live.
Huh.
But I'll tell you what, it doesn't look like that. So it's like,
Notice how he said,
border.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, it looks more like the border area. I would say more like, if you were to go like a 50-mile swath near the Rio Grande, I would say would be where that's probably at. So you could have said something else, and there might be two towns that sound like Henderson. So
I can play it back if you want. Let me see what he said. I think he said Sanderson.
There it is. Okay.
Sanderson.
It translated as Sanderson. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll look that up. I'll see where that is. And Dr. Pete Chambers, I'm sure.
I do.
So I'll check in with him about this and see what he knows.
Please and thank you. Sorry, I wasn't interrupting. I just get excited when we talk with the exchange of it. I don't want the audience to think I'm being rude. I get excited when we talk because the energy goes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so then there's this other one here. This is something, as you know, Sandy, we need to keep an eye on as well as we see what's going on with, Iraq and Iran. They've announced the other day over the weekend, we put on our Telegram if you want to see it because we source everything. So it's very transparent as always that if they stay on the oil trajectory, Iran and Iraq are going to go bankrupt soon, which means they're going to have to make a move with respect to the dinar internationally, but also the Rial Toman, for those of you who own that currency before the sanctions kicked in. There are some of you who do. We see Trump's deal with China, but China has been trying to control Taiwan So now Japan is stepping in apparently to protect Taiwan. Japanese officials claim the country would be first to defend the Chinese military attack. Japan will deploy medium-range missiles to Yanaguni Island. I hope I'm saying that right, 110 kilometers from Taiwan. It's part of a broader military buildup aimed at deterring China. Japan began conducting live sea trials on a 100 kilowatt class laser weapon system installed abroad a military test vessel amid rising China tensions. In a minute, Sandy, after I play, I'll get your impressions on this since that's up your alley as a military vet. Japan to deploy electronic warfare air defense unit 110 kilometers from Taiwan to counter China's increasing threats towards the island. Let's take a quick look.
Là Tay 81, hệ thống tên lửa phòng không tầm ngắn của Nhật Bản, ra đời từ năm 1981, nhưng đến nay vẫn là một trong những lá chắn đáng gờm. Điểm mạnh nhất chính là khả năng cơ động cao, triển khai nhanh và độ chính xác cực tốt. Tay 81 được lắp trên xe tải hạng nhẹ, cực kỳ cơ động, có thể triển khai và khai hỏa chỉ trong vài phút. Tên lửa dẫn đường hồng ngoại kết hợp ran, tầm bắn tới 14 km, đánh chặn ở độ cao 4.000 m. Không chỉ bắn hạ máy bay và trực thăng, Tay 81 còn đủ sức đối phó UAV và cả tên lửa hành trình bay thấp. Trong lưới phòng không nhiều tầng của Nhật, nó chính là lớp phòng thủ tầm ngắn, phối hợp cùng Tay 3 và Aerial 3 để bảo vệ bầu trời.
Okay, so for we civilians, Sandy, if you could translate the significance of Japan defending Taiwan, what does that mean for the people?
Well, it's an interesting development. I had not seen that video before. I couldn't read what it was saying. Unfortunately, my screen wasn't big enough to see the letters, so I don't even know what it said. And I don't speak that language, so I can't tell you what it was. But
Same.
Japan defending Taiwan, I can see that from two different levels. The first one being Japan's big reliance upon components that come out of Taiwan. So from an economic, commercial standpoint, that makes sense. That they would have a mutual agreement or whatever to be against Chinese incursion into Taiwan. Then there's the historical significance, which is that the Japanese attacked China rather viciously in World War II. Millions were killed in China by the Japanese armies. One prime example of that is the Doolittle raid, which was the revenge attack for Pearl Harbor that happened the following April. So the fact that Japan is now turning around and defending something Chinese is a pretty major event, in my opinion. It might actually be more of like a reconciliation. Now, Trump has had a lot of contact in Taiwan and Japan, a little bit with China. Of course, he just had the meeting with Putin in Russia, from Russia in Alaska. So there's a lot going on in that region. I don't think people really realize. And that's basically because they're going to flash the shiny object of something else, like Obama's arrest. And of course, we haven't seen anything with that. But that's going to distract the attention away from the things they don't want you to examine too closely because they just need to get things done. So that's an interesting development. Can you send me that video so I can read what it actually says on there and see what they were saying?
Yeah, sure, no problem. And then you add to the fact, Sandy, that I'm sure somebody will fact check it because they always have to be right. I know everything. They recently had a new woman appointed in Japan as the prime minister who's apparently very Trumpian and is very right wing. Well, she's getting things done, and so you see this activity, I think, as a result of that post-election, the spokes or the wheels in motion. I think that's what it speaks to. So it's very interesting because we see all these concurrent events happening. And then on top of all that, on the financial side, looking, as you know, Sandy, you're a metals fan like myself and many other people. Earlier in the futures market, about an hour ago, silver touched over 61. So it's moving. The suppression is ending. Huh?
Yeah. We knew it was going to happen by the end of the year. It's a lot earlier than we thought, but yeah, interesting.
I think we're right over the target, and I'll be watching closely with others to see if gold touches 5,000 this year. If not, it's definitely going to hit it in January. And I think Trump's going to let it go 6, 7, 8. And when it goes there, he's going to say, okay, I think we need to audit the Fort Knox, audit the Fed. Let's revalue gold to about 20, 25,000. And eventually silver at some point is going to go 1-to-1 with it, because silver is more valuable than gold because of the manufacturing, the scarcity of it. That in and of itself, supply and demand, precipitates
Industrial uses.
industrial, I mean military, right? Every time they blow off a warhead or something, you can't recycle it back. It's on here in California, I'm sure in many other sun-drenched states, Florida and the like, Arizona, where they utilize solar panels. There's 2 ounces of silver in every solar panel. Most people don't even know that's sitting up on their house. So yeah, there are just so many different things it's being used for, obviously. But it's a very exciting time as we precipitate the crescendo here. If you were to look at all the things that we've shared, juxtaposed with what you've discussed, what would you say, in your opinion, are the 1 or 2 things that you're most encouraged about going into the end of the year, into next year?
Good question. I would say the acceleration of the financial changes has been one of the major encouraging marks, because as we've discussed in previous podcasts, when this republic is restored and the corporation is removed, we go back to a constitutional financial system, no central bank. We will have state banks or state credit unions or whatever you want to call them. But essentially, John Dowling and Sandy Miarecki become our own banks.
Mm-hmm.
And if I want to loan money to someone, there is a system for doing that. And it's a direct 1-to-1. There's no middle people stealing a 1%, 2%, of the stuff here and there.
Mm.
And the interest is purely for administrative fees, so like it's a 1% loan. And that's basically just because of the transfers and the whatever, to use the system. It's not 10%, 20%. It's nothing like that.
Right.
So that's where we're supposed to be going. And there are many steps. Of course, your insiders, my insiders, they talk to us all the time. And they tell us that kind of like this has to happen first, and this has to happen first, and probably in this order, but we're not 100% sure. Mm-hmm. And then when you look up what NESARA really is, not the 95% false fraudulent stuff that's online,
right?
You realize that we are slowly doing each of these things of the real NESARA.
And how it's law constitutionally. Yes. That's the part that the haters don't tell you, because they don't know.
No. Well, because they're doing the whole CNN,
right.
stuff, so they don't do their own research.
And they don't have access to information like you do at a higher level either, which they don't tell people,
No.
They leave that out.
But the QFS being implemented, that's a huge step.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that had to happen first, so we knew that the Republic wouldn't be stood up until that.
Right.
And that's basically, what was the date? Was it November 1st when it had to be done? It was just a little while ago, like not even.
You're talking about November 22nd, ISO? Is that what you're referring to?
That was the second part. There was something before that.
Oh, yeah.
November 22nd was another big day. Let's just go with that one, because I can't remember what the other one was.
I think it was the 1st or the 5th on the first one, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Yes. So all the banks had to be compliant with ISO 20022.
Right.
And some of them didn't make it. And they were going to lose their charters, and the Fed had an emergency meeting in order to figure out what to do about it. Well, as far as we know, has that been resolved? I'm not an insider in the Federal Reserve. I can't tell you. But the fact that this is coming out slowly in the news, to me, means we're heading in the right direction, first of all. And second of all, they're stepping up the game, that the timeline has accelerated. And so that's what I feel has been the biggest positive change and positive news, that maybe the first quarter, like the current prediction, is when we're going to actually see something really good happening.
Agreed. Well, because you're going to see a crash by then, most likely. So everything is a tension release point. As we talked about last time, he's going to have at least 2 quarters of GDP to be able to turn this thing around in time for July, which, as we know, is slated right now, 4th of July, 250th anniversary Victory Day. I was researching what you just shared about the credit unions. I think Americans, we actually own at least 50 credit unions, and I'm sure it will grow, beyond that as we go forward, as we go into this peer-to-peer banking system you're alluding to. So it's all trending our way. yeah, okay, it's not happening as fast as we would like. But it doesn't mean nothing has changed, nothing is happening. It's frustrating when people say that because it's their own internal frustration emotionally that's not connected to logically what's actually happening. And you have to divorce those two, which you know all too well.
The rabbit to win the race, but it's the turtle that's actually doing all the work. So
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
got to just go with the turtle at this point.
Good point. That's a great point.
And we've talked about this before. There is no way that the white hats are working without an AI. Probably one of the most sophisticated AIs on the planet is actually controlling the whole white hat operation. I'm pretty sure. Now, not controlling, but advising and monitoring.
Spearheading.
I would say still people that's in charge, right?
Yeah.
There's still the good guys that are in charge, but when they have a question or what's our strategy? What are our choices? And they say A, B, and C, and they say, okay, AI, ding. AI says, I think plan B is going to work out the best because blah, 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 blah. And here's what we do for milestones in order to get to plan B. And so then, okay, what do you recommend for the first milestone? Ding, and it spits out. It's like, this is what I'm almost certain because, as I was trying to keep track of all the information that was coming in during COVID and all this other stuff, I was realizing the enormity of information. And I'm like, there's no way there are people doing this. I can do a stovepipe. I can say, okay, you're on economy, you're on military, you're on international affairs, but they don't talk to each other very well. And so if you get an AI that just does the whole picture, it can strategize. It can give you the next step. It can tell you, okay, let's send this little, flare out and see if anyone notices. And what was it? Is it a positive thumbs up, thumbs down? They can look at all the social media. They're plugged in and they get that gist. And so, and we talked about this too, a random one podcaster is going to drop one piece of information and I didn't see it anywhere else. And it was significant information. And no one else picked it up either. And I went, what? They're all following orders. It's my best guess. And so they had to do that. They had to check this one little microcosm of this one little podcaster and his audience to see what are the likes and thumbs up and the reshares and all that stuff. Is it a positive? Is it a negative? That gets a score. The AI is going to do it. Tick, 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 ding. They're just going to spit it out. And so then the AI goes, okay, that was a good experiment. It worked out great. Or oop, it didn't do exactly what we thought it was going to do. We need to back up a little bit and do another step before we go forward. I'm 99% sure they've got to have something like this behind them. And they're saying, oh, AI is up and coming. I'm like, yeah, BS. They've had
it's already here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a litmus test, essentially.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just like I said, like testing the waters, and trying something and seeing how it goes. And so, that's what I think a lot of this is. Gold and silver prices are just like, yeah. How are people reacting to that, right?
Just wait.
Are they going into Bitcoin? Are they going out of Bitcoin? Are they buying other cryptos? And all of that stuff too. That all fits into the same plan and all the same, benchmarks and all the little, almost like a little Star Trek, the med beds or the bio beds, Star Trek, right?
Yeah.
Bleep, bleep, his heart rate and his, blood pressure and all this stuff, And so, the AI has got all these little bleep, bleep, bleep things in it. It's like a million of them maybe, and they can just kind of monitor and see how they're connected and adjusted. And then they can do something to okay, Obama's going to be arrested and that bleep, 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 it changes these guys and makes them tilt a certain way so then they can do the next thing. I just really strongly feel that that's what they're doing. I can't see how they can be doing it any other way.
I agree with you. No, and then you're looking at the different analytics and how the AI calculates it all. And as you said, it becomes a support system for the people. And then the last question to wrap up for today, Sandy, and the holidays is just your own personal experience and opinion based on, no, it's really more opinion because you, like you said, you have acumen in the military, obviously. What positive impacts, I was going to say not repercussions, but impacts this has for the children as the military continue to save the children globally, getting them away from nefarious evil and harm?
Well, I know just from an overall perspective, why I am doing this, first of all, God told me pretty much, he laid things in front of me and he's like, oh, you want me to do that? Oh, okay. And that's what you do. If you know what you're supposed to do, you're supposed to do it, right? But the internal reason why I'm doing this is because I've lived a good life. If it doesn't work out, if I get taken down because of the fight that I'm doing right now, well, I'm doing it so the kids don't have to do it. Right. And then the saving of the kids, right? The ones that are being totally abused, and I won't go any further than that. So many rescues we are not hearing about. But the folks that are behind the scenes that are helping these agencies and independent groups that are rescuing the kids, they'll never talk about it publicly because they need secrecy in order to do what they're doing. And so the little tidbits that do come out are because I have friends or associates in these groups. And that's enough to make me know that things are being done behind the scenes. Is it slow? In my mind, yeah. I'd like to free them all today. But you've also got to find all the evil ones and take them down at the same time so it doesn't happen again. So I can comprehend why it has to be done a certain way. We both know we're following God's plan at this point, and we have to trust in that. So, is some bad things happening? Yeah. Is it part of God's plan? Yeah. We don't know. We don't have all the details. We're not God. Thank God. I don't want to be God.
Thank God. No, we don't want that job. But there's also a lot of great things happening too to balance it out. And same thing with my podcast. I didn't want to do this. I was asked by God, why don't you do it? And I was like, but if I didn't, we wouldn't connect. And I feel like I know that a lot of our audience members, from what they've said, would be missing out on critical information. So really, God is using us as a conduit for them for a greater purpose. And he's not going to take us until we fulfill all of our kingdom purposes, which should be the way it is. So appreciate that.
That's also one of the things that you and I have to do in our own way, and everyone else who's listening to this, is what I call wake up the woke. And how do you do that? Well, you don't do it by just sharing information or telling them they're wrong. Of course, they're never going to listen to that.
Right.
And it's share something with them, but with a perspective of, I just got this video and I'm watching it and I'm trying to find something wrong with it. But every time I do research and try to find something wrong, I keep confirming it. I'm sure you can find something wrong with this. Why don't you help me? Help me find something wrong with this, because I just don't believe it. And sometimes they'll do that because it's a favor. I'm telling you, man, it works. I've gotten a bunch of folks put the crack in the dam or plant the seeds. All we have to do is plant the seeds and God brings in the harvest. So
yep. He waters it and harvests it. And it's not about being right or proving people wrong. It's speaking the truth in love.
Right.
And over time, God vindicates with enough time and patience. He always has, he always will, to your point. So no, thank you. All very wise, sage wisdom, insight on your part per usual. Well, as we wrap up for today, Sandy, because I know you got other things to do, where can people find the Republic? And last words you have for the audience, please.
Yes, sir. So our we've got two websites. We call it the original website, which is the archive. And then we have the members website, which is the newer one. So you can read a ton of old stuff on the original website. That is Republic for the United States of America.org. The other one is the same name, but members dot in the front of it, two separate websites. We've also got a shortcut to the members website that's way easier to remember, and that's republicforusa.org, and that's a shortcut redirect. It'll take you to the long address. So republicforusa.org. And that's a great place to start. There's a thing that says register, and there's documents and some other information. We have an Odyssey channel, so like Rumble, YouTube, etc. There's a channel called Odyssey, and President Geiger who's our president, has a channel. So lots of great videos in there. Educational stuff, for the most part. I forget your second question, sir. I need more.
No, you're getting just any last parting thoughts you have
last
today.
words, right. God is calling his people. For those that know the Bible well enough to know the story of Gideon's army, 32,000, I believe, soldiers, and God only wanted 300 special select ones. And it wasn't the strongest or the smartest or the anything. It was the ones that God needed for that particular job. We're going through that right now. And this republic, every time it goes through an infiltration and people try to splinter us even more, we're being tested. Did you bend down to drink from the river, or did you bring the water to your mouth? Are you believing the truth? Can you discern truth? Or are you going to follow the lies? God only wants the people who can hear the truth and know the truth and feel the truth. And they know their assignment. God is laying something in front of you, and you have to recognize that's your assignment. Those are the people that need to come to this republic. We look forward to working with you. Please sign up on that website. We would love to talk to you.
Fabulous. Love it. We'll always, as we always do, Sandy, we'll put the link in the description. And both here on YouTube, of course, and then Rumble will manually put it on later because they don't always do that. And, for our part, folks, as we wrap up the holidays, or we're coming in the holiday season, wrap up the year, I should say, through this podcast, we have many great sponsors that we'll leave a link in the description below. One of them, though, I do want to highlight, has really been super good to us, Noble Gold. On the precious metal side, which I'm putting up here, they're doing a great opportunity, folks, for anyone who is on the retail side buying gold or silver, or fractions of gold and silver, depending what your budget is. Any qualified accounts will get 10 ounces of silver, which is probably it's between $600 to $650 of free silver right now. Is never a bad thing. You get that automatically just for applying qualifying. So if you're interested, we'll leave a link in the description. It's just noblegoldinvestments.com/JD Metals, and you'll get the best pricing and service. So really humbly recommend them for what it's worth, and we'll leave that links in the description accordingly. Sandy Miarecki, thanks for joining us on the podcast. We appreciate you and all of your time and service. Have a wonderful Christmas and New Year with you and your family, and we'll look forward to seeing you again in the new year.
Thank you. You have a blessed holiday as well.
Thanks, Sandy.